In a bustling city where everyone is rushing to pursue their own goals, Ethan accidentally makes a seemingly small choice that changes his life. A homeless man, a fateful phone call, and a short thank you letter all set him on an unexpected turn. From an office worker fired for misplaced kindness, Ethan embarks on a journey of conscious journey to find himself. But he did not expect that the kindness that cost him would be the key to the greatest opportunity of his life. Welcome to Kindness Stories, where small actions can make big changes. Today, join us as we explore an inspiring story about a seemingly simple decision that opened the door to a life-changing journey. Ethan woke up to the shrill sound of his alarm clock echoing throughout the small apartment. He yawned, eyes bleary, and struggled to get out of bed. His morning routine was as usual: brew a strong black coffee, quickly scroll through his phone and check his work email. Everything was organized, leaving no room for procrastination. He turned on the footlight on his way to bed. Today's schedule was especially important. The company was holding a strategy meeting that he couldn't be late for. 1 minute late and you've lost the opportunity, his boss, Mr. Raymond, had warned him countless times. Ethan pulled on his gray coat, checked his briefcase one last time, and left the apartment. The air outside was chilly, his breath mingling with the morning mist. The honking of horns, the hurried footsteps of commuters, and the hustle and bustle of the city were more evident than ever. Everyone was busy, paying no attention to anyone. Ethan was no exception. He headed straight for the subway station, where he usually took the 7 train to the office. As Ethan approached the intersection near the train station, he stopped. A man with a disheveled beard lay motionless on the cold ground on the sidewalk ahead. His ragged clothes were filthy, and his shoes were worn so that his toes were exposed. A few passers-by glanced at him, then quickly turned away, as if afraid of getting into trouble. A woman pulled her son along faster, not even glancing back. He looked. Ethan frowned. He glanced at his watch. The train was only 15 minutes away. None of my business, he thought. But his feet wouldn't move. He stood there, torn between reason and emotion. All of a sudden, a suggestion from elsewhere came to him. What if the person who had smashed the windows had been his wife? Maybe I'd better run back to camp before Trudy intervenes. He's probably just sleeping, he told himself. But then his eyes fell on the man's hand. It wasn't moving, not even a rise or fall of his chest. How do I know if he's alive? A thought flashed through Ethan's mind, and his heart began to beat faster. No, I don't have time for this, Ethan muttered, turning to leave. He took 3 steps, but then a feeling of unease washed over him. The image of the man lying there was seared into his mind. What if he really needed help? Finally, Ethan gritted his teeth and turned back. He ran to the man, bent down, and gently shook his shoulder. Hey, are you okay? Can you hear me? The man did not respond. Ethan patted his cheek, trying to call out louder. Hey, can you hear me? No response. Ethan pulled out his phone and dialed 911. An operator picked up, asking about the emergency. There's a man passed out on the sidewalk. I don't know if he's breathing, Ethan said quickly. We're on the corner of Broadway and 6th. The ambulance is on the way. Please stay there, the operator replied. Ethan sighed. This is a mess, he thought. But this time, he didn't leave. He sat down next to the man, pulling his jacket over him to keep him warm. Passers-by looked at him as if he had done something strange, but this time, Ethan didn't care. When the doctor had finished filing his report, Ethan sipped his coffee. The ambulance arrived 10 minutes later. 2 paramedics quickly got out. One checked the man's pulse and breathing. The other asked Ethan, "How is... You called 911, right? Do you know what happened to him?" "No, but in my view, he was a straight-laced hippie to a good man, and he has nothing to feel guilty about." I don't know. I just saw him lying there, not moving. The paramedic nodded, checking the man's pulse. He's fine, just hypothermic and exhausted, she said. Thank goodness you called us. If he'd been here a few more hours, he could have died. Ethan felt relieved, but the relief didn't last long. He looked at his watch, 8:25 a.m. Damn, he muttered. The train had left. The meeting started at 8:30. He rushed to the train station, but it was too late. When he arrived at the office, Mr. Raymond was already waiting for him, his face full of anger. Ethan, what time do you think it is? Mr. Raymond said, his voice sharp. Ethan sighed. I had an emergency on the road, Ethan tried to explain. A man passed out on the side of the road. I couldn't just leave him. I don't need your reasons, Raymond interrupted. We stressed that this morning's meeting was important. It was an opportunity to prove our abilities. But what about you? You were absent. Startled. I know, but if I hadn't helped him, he might have died. Nice, Raymond sneered. Niceness won't get you promoted. Don't forget, this company needs people who put work first. Ethan clenched his fists. He couldn't believe it. His right action was being seen as wrong. That day, Ethan's mind was filled with regret and anger. I shouldn't have stopped, he scolded himself. No one thanked me. No one cared. He wondered if he had the heart to tell Tree how much it meant to him. He opened his inbox to find a series of emails from Raymond, criticizing him for his irresponsibility and arbitrary actions. Each word in the emails was like a knife, cutting into Ethan's pride. When he left work, it was dark outside, much colder than in the morning. On his way home, he passed the corner where the old man had lain motionless that morning. This time, there was no one there. But Ethan saw something else, a small piece of paper taped to a nearby bus stop. Thank you to the man who saved me this morning. If it weren't for him, I might not be here. I don't know your name, but I will never forget it. Ethan stood still. The wind blew, carrying a chill, but his chest felt a little warmer. For the first time that day, Ethan didn't feel regret for doing the right thing. At that moment, a thought crossed his mind. Maybe being kind isn't so stupid. As time passed, Ethan's life returned to normal, but his mind did not. Every day, when he passed the corner where the homeless man had once lain, he would pause for a moment, his eyes searching for something. Though he did not say it, he longed to see the old man again, not to be thanked, but to make sure he was okay. One late afternoon, after being reprimanded by Mr. Raymond for lack of concentration, Ethan left the office in a heavy mood. The cold wind cut through his thin coat. He pulled up his collar and walked with his head down, hoping to get home quickly and forget another bad day. When he reached the familiar corner, he saw a familiar figure leaning against the brick wall. It was the old man from the day before, but this time he was not lying still but sitting upright, holding a loaf of bread in his hand. Ethan stopped. He looked at the old man, feeling a strange feeling, both surprise and relief. Without hesitation, Ethan approached. "Hello, you look better," Ethan said, unable to hide his surprise. The man looked up, recognizing Ethan. A tired but genuine smile appeared on his aged face. "It was you. You were the one who called the ambulance that day, right?" "Yeah," Ethan nodded. "I didn't think I'd see you here again." "Oh, Zach." The man chuckled. "The life of a homeless person is the same everywhere you go, you know. But at least I didn't freeze to death on the sidewalk that day, thanks to you." Ethan was silent for a moment, his eyes fixed on the old man's bony hand. "You have somewhere to go? Somewhere warmer than here?" The man shook his head. "Yes, but places like that are usually full. You have to come really early to get a seat." Ethan looked around. The streets were busy, but no one paid any attention to them. He suddenly felt helpless. If there's anything you need, I can help. A meal, warm clothes, anything. The man was silent for a long time, then said softly, "Thanks, but I need a job, not food." Ethan could sense the hidden anguish in his voice. The old man didn't want to be a beggar. He wanted a chance to stand on his own 2 feet. Ethan didn't go straight home that day. He sat and listened as the man told him about his life. His name was Ben. He used to own a small auto repair shop, but a serious car accident took everything from him: his health, his savings, and his job. He lost his job, his home, and eventually he was homeless. Ben's story made Ethan think about it all the way home. Suddenly, things didn't seem so simple anymore. Ethan realized that anyone could become homeless if just one major event happened in their life. The next day, when Ethan got to the office, he opened his browser and searched for information about organizations that helped the homeless. He found a nearby volunteer group called Warm House, which offered free meals and job placement programs for the homeless. A thought flashed through his mind. I can do something. A week later, Ethan attended his first volunteer session at the Warm House. It was not what he had imagined. The atmosphere was warmer. People were more chatty and friendly. Ethan met Lucy, an energetic volunteer with short brown hair and bright eyes. Lucy guided Ethan through the tasks of helping prepare dinner, distributing food, and talking to homeless people. "Ah, you're new, right?" Lucy smiled, handing Ethan a blue apron. "Ready to be sous chef?" Ethan smiled and nodded, feeling strangely excited. For the first time in days, he felt like his work had a real meaning. As the months passed, Ethan became more and more attached to the Warm House. He often met Ben there. They had dinner together, talked about everything under the sun. Ethan gradually considered Ben as a friend. But not everything was smooth sailing. Work at the company was getting more and more stressful. Mr. Raymond kept assigning more work and asking Ethan to focus more on the long-term goals. Ethan knew what Raymond meant: focus on the job, not get distracted by other people's business. The internet became very scarce, Mr. Raymond said. One day, Raymond called Ethan into his office. "I heard you've been spending a lot of time volunteering lately. Don't forget, the company pays you to work, not to play save the world." "I still get my work done on time," Ethan countered, trying to keep his voice calm. "Jen, yeah, but can't you do better? Who do you think will get promoted when the company does its year-end review? The one who just does the bare minimum, or the one who puts his heart and soul into the job?" Raymond's words made Ethan silent. He understood. He knew he had to choose a path. Finally, the choice came. The date of the Warm House big fundraiser coincided with the company's strategy meeting. Raymond requested that all employees be present. Ethan looked at the calendar, his heart in turmoil. The fundraiser needed a lot of support. Lucy had also asked him to help organize it. He had written 5 pages of statements without permission, and Lucy had shrugged it off. Ethan stopped. That night, Ethan tossed and turned. His mind told him that his career should come first, but his heart said otherwise. The next day, Ethan arrived at the Warm House early in the morning. Dozens of homeless people were already lined up waiting for a meal. Lucy smiled when she saw Ethan walk in. "You're here. I was afraid you couldn't come." "I've decided." Ethan chuckled, pulling on his apron. At the fundraiser, Ethan not only helped distribute the food, but also helped manage the entire process. He felt the meaning of every little thing he did. For the first time in his life, he didn't think about Raymond's emails or the unfinished business. The strategy meeting went on without Ethan. After the fundraiser ended, Ethan checked his phone and received an email from Raymond. "Ethan, you don't need to come back." End of chapter 7. He stood still, His eyes stared at the screen, a bitter feeling rising in his chest. He had lost his job, but strangely, he did not feel empty this time. He looked up at the people in the warm house, the people he had just helped. And at that moment, Ethan realized that sometimes, to live true to yourself, you have to accept losing something. In the days after his layoff, Ethan felt like he was drifting in a void. No more stress from Mr. Raymond's emails, no more alarm clock reminding him of his morning meetings, no more monthly salary to pay the rent. The feeling of emptiness mixed with anxiety, but strangely, he felt no regret. Ethan continues to come to the warm house every day. The work here does not bring him money, but it brings him something greater, meaning. Ben, the old man he saved, now has a part-time job at a nearby convenience store. Lucy also notices a positive change in Ethan, winds down the conversation, and tells Ben that it's time for him to go natural. "You seem more comfortable," Lucy commented, as they both sorted through the food boxes. "Probably because I don't have Raymond yelling at me every day anymore," Ethan joked, but his eyes shone with genuine relief. "So what are you going to do next?" Lucy asked, still folding boxes. Ethan paused, looking off into the distance. The question had been replaying in his mind all week. He didn't have a definite answer, but there was a new feeling in his heart, a belief that, this time, he would choose the right path. Late one afternoon, Ethan received a phone call from an unknown number. At first, he decided not to pick up, but after a few seconds of hesitation, he pressed the accept call button. "Hello, is this Ethan?" A deep and clear voice came from the other end of the line. It was Richard Walker. "Yes, it's me. Who's calling?" "I'm Raymond." Ethan paused, frowning in surprise. "What else do you want?" His voice failed to hide his annoyance. "I wanted to see you," Raymond said, his voice calmer than usual. "I have a proposition I think you might like to hear." I sat up. Ethan was silent for a few seconds. The memory of Raymond's criticism was still fresh in his mind, but curiosity took over. "I don't work for you anymore," Ethan replied firmly. "I know, but this time, I'm not calling you as your former boss. I'm calling you as an investor." "Investors?" Ethan frowned. "Can you come to the coffee shop on 8th Street tomorrow at 4 p.m.? I promise this isn't a scolding meeting." Curious and somewhat wary, Ethan agreed. The next day, Ethan went to the coffee shop as scheduled. When he entered, Mr. Raymond was already sitting at a corner table, no longer wearing his usual stiff suit. Instead, he wore a gray sweater and jeans, looking much more relaxed. "Sit down," Raymond pointed to the chair opposite. Ethan sat down, his eyes never leaving Raymond. "I don't like long-windedness, so I'll be blunt," Raymond spoke up. "I've been watching you for a while." "Watching me?" Ethan frowned, unable to hide his annoyance. Thumping up the stairs, Ethan checked his menu on the ride. "Yes, I heard about your work at Warm Home. I've been there a few times, but you didn't recognize me." Ethan was surprised. He didn't expect Raymond, who always appeared cold and pragmatic, to take an interest in his volunteer work. "I used to think that working hard, climbing the corporate ladder, making as much money as possible was everything. But then I realized sometimes success doesn't come from what you keep, but from what you give." Raymond paused, his deep eyes looking straight at Ethan. "What do you mean?" Ethan asked, eyes filled with doubt. When the robot lifted Ethan up, "I'm setting up a charity. Unlike other charities, this one will help homeless people find jobs instead of just giving them food." Raymond leaned forward, his eyes filled with determination. "I want you to join as the program manager." Ethan was stunned. "Why did you choose me? I'm just a fired employee." Raymond smiled. For the first time, he didn't look like a stiff boss anymore. "You have two things that many people lack: the courage to make the hard choice, and the perseverance to keep making it. I used to think that those things weren't important in business, but you proved me wrong." Ethan's heart pounded. He never expected to hear these words from Raymond, a man who valued efficiency above all else. He said, "No one." Raymond squeezed him a little tighter and touched. In a moment, there was a rippling in the air. "So, what is my role?" "Help me build a training and employment program for the homeless. You have experience with Warm House, and I believe you will know how to connect with them. They need someone who understands them, and I think you are the right person." Ethan leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. Everything had happened so fast. He thought he had lost everything when he got fired. But now another door had opened. A month later, Ethan officially started working at the New Career Foundation, a non-profit organization founded by Raymond. Their new office was on the second floor of a small building, a far cry from the glitz of their old company. But that didn't matter. Ethan is no longer a paycheck-to-paycheck office worker. Now he is a leader, helping people like Ben find hope in their lives. Ben became the first person to sign up for the Foundation's job training course. Lucy also joined Ethan as part of the core team. Every workday is no longer a race against endless deadlines, but a journey to help people find a second chance. One afternoon, Ethan stood in front of his office window, looking down at the bustling street below. People were hurrying by. A homeless man was sitting on the corner, just like Ben had once sat. But this time, Ethan no longer felt helpless. He knew he could do something. He returned to his desk, where he found a copy of the new training program plan. A bold message was written across the title. "Everyone deserves a second chance." Ethan smiled. He finally understood that kindness not only changed others, it changed him too. And that's today's story, a testament to the fact that kindness is never wasted. Although it sometimes comes at a cost, the rewards always come in the most unexpected ways. If you also believe that small actions can make a big difference, please like, share, and follow Kindness Stories so you don't miss out on the next heartwarming stories. Don't forget, your moment of kindness today can become a miracle for someone tomorrow. See you on the next journey where the seeds of kindness always sprout in our hearts.